Hello and welcome to another Daily Muppet. In today's video, we are going to talk about share prices and speculation, the club sale, the transfer window opening, United's budget, and what it all means. So let's get into it. So first and foremost, obviously there was, since the last video on Monday, a massive speculation that went on the basis of a misunderstood report out of a Qatar newspaper where there was a tweet that claimed that the deal was done according to press reports, which was conveniently ignored by many people. And the editor had been retweeting fake tweets from an illegal streaming site and from a fake Fabrizio Romano account and things like that. And this went absolutely round the world, this post at night on Monday. And after hours trading in, Manchester United went nuts. Suddenly the share price shot through the roof and has maintained a little bit of a higher level than it was before. And then obviously this was taken on that evening by many people to say, oh, the deal is done. It's being reported by Qatar. It's being recorded by Qatari press, where they would need approval from the state and things like that to make these kinds of statements, etc., etc. Now, I pointed out at the time correctly that it was an aggregated report from the paper. I have Arabic people read Arabic in our Discord in these places that clearly read it and said this is surely an indication of aggregation rather than a report themselves. It's a huge breaking deal. There's no article. However, obviously this drove speculation into overdrive. And the thing to understand about share price, because that's the thing that comes down to it, it was cleared up. The editor himself had to post that this was not a report, that it was based on the media that's out there. So that was cleared up. But the thing that people still do not understand is about how share prices work. The Class A shares that are on the stock market for Manchester United can be bought by me, by you, by anyone. That's who owns them. Now, hedge funds and such own a large number of them too. There are a few big investor groups that own a large swath of these of these shares as well. But a lot of them are owned by your average individual. And what happens is, if Sheikh Jassim wins the bid, he's planning to buy out the rest of the shares that are publicly on the market to take the club private. Those shares have been at around $20 per share. In order to do that, he will have to offer a premium on the shares, $30 to $35 per share or so, to get everybody to sell up until he reaches a certain break point where he can force them to be sold at a certain price. So the stock market is essentially a betting market in some ways for certain types of businesses, like it's based on earnings and things like that too. But essentially share prices, it's investments. If people think Qatar will win, then they believe that they're going to get $30 for a share. So if you can buy something for 20 and sell it for 30, you do it. That's investing. The more people buying, it's going to drive the share price up naturally, because there's not going to be shares available. So people are going to say, oh, I'll offer 21. Oh, I'll offer 21.50. Oh, I'll offer 22. And then people will sell, and that drives the share price up. That's the price that it's currently selling for. And that's what happens. So the share price is an indication of news that is out there. It's an indication of feeling from investors, not insiders, investors, people like you, me, your average person. And that was a lot of what the trading was being done on, was your average person. It can also be hedge funds and things, but they don't have more inside information. They might just be looking at it and saying, oh, we're feeling a little bit more like it's going to be sold to Qatar, so we're going to buy these up because we're going to turn a quick profit on them. And so that's what drives share prices up. It doesn't mean anything. Same as when the share price comes down, it doesn't mean Sir Jim has won. It just means there's more of a feeling that is moving in that direction based on whether it's going up or down by your average person, based on the same information that is available to you, to me, and to everybody else. Otherwise, it would be called insider trading, which is illegal, which is fraud, which is heavy, heavy penalties, including jail time, and is not something that is going to be done by your average investor or hedge funds, especially not on a Manchester United stock where they're not going to make that much money. It's not worth the risk to do things like that. And any standing out trades would be investigated heavily. Share price is determined by speculation. While you had a huge amount of trading with the share price going up, you had essentially the reverse yesterday as well, which was 2.4 million people shorted the stock. Now, shorting it in really, really basic, simple terms mean 2.4 million times there were bets placed that the share price is going to come down. And so you've had a huge amount in both directions, which is a normal thing. Those bets that the share price is going to come down don't mean Sir Jim Ratcliffe is going to win the bid. It means that there are a bunch of people who think he will, same as there are a bunch of people who think it'll go the other way. And that's how share prices work in a very broad sense, and why it means absolutely nothing. The share prices will move based on news that is already out there, but they do not tell you anything on their own with this takeover. They're driven by speculation. And speculation comes in many, many forms, obviously, with lots of articles, with lots of things, with people on Twitter, with things that go around. And people will sit there and think, well, no, I mean, come on, it's Twitter, right? Something being shared on Twitter and going around can't be changing the share price. That kind of speculation can't. It can, and it does, and it's exactly what does. Because same articles, if you go to, let's see, if you go right now to Manchester United share price and you Google it and you go to one of these websites like Market Watch, right? Look at the first article that pops up, because it shows you on these things below the share price the reason for it and things that are tied to it, and news. Markets. Manchester United stock soars. The move is tied to latest speculation on who may buy them. Manchester United shares jump on report. Qatar Sheikh Jassim to be named preferred bidder. Manchester United stock shoots up 15.7%. Manchester United, etc., right? So it has all of the news related to it. You know what it doesn't have? The news that says that the report was fake. It's not there, because that is the type of thing that has not been shared as widely around. So it's all based on speculation. And I say that, and that is a completely neutral and unbiased perspective on it. When it's down, it doesn't mean Sir Jim is winning. If it drops by $2 today, it doesn't mean that Sir Jim wins. If it goes up, it doesn't mean Sheikh Jassim wins. It means nothing. It's all speculation and based on the articles that are there. So moving on to the club sale, where are things at and what is going on? Let's do a little bit more speculating. So in the first case, obviously, we had news on Sunday that they were expecting to hear back this week. It is now Wednesday. Are we expecting to get the answer this week? I will still say that on Monday's video, the reason I was a little worried is I noted that those articles said the bidders expect to hear back this week. And as of yet, they have at this point been not so reliable in terms of their perspectives on when they're going to hear things. It didn't come from like Kleiman or Financial Times or somebody from a neutral or RAIN perspective on when things would happen. However, that being said, I do think we will hear back this week. But for the same reasons that those articles were written, I have heard that there is an expectation of getting the answer, the final answer this week. I have also heard from slightly more neutral sources, but it's hard to know, like people around, say, UEFA area, that they're expecting to essentially be alerted to the final decision this week as well. Could that be the same kind of thing, communications with the selling or the buying parties, and that's where they're getting their info from too? Yeah, it could be. So I cannot say that that is a better indication than reports of from the buyers expecting to hear back. It may be the same source of information at the end of the day. But it's just another source that has been hearing that there's something happening. Then you have obviously some rumors about a meeting today. There's a fair bit of stuff that kind of aligns with that, but it is obviously so impossibly hard to confirm these types of things. One of the things that I will say that is very interesting is that, as far as I understand it, this is just some information that I have that I can share on this that is a little bit interesting, and it's hard to say exactly how um, exactly what this means. There's been a lot more dialogue from at least a buyer, and I'm not being vague there on purpose. I'm just saying at least a buyer with people in the club, not necessarily people in the club, but so when they went to Old Trafford and visited, they met with um, Arnold, Murtaugh, etc. And there's been a lot more dialogue between buyers and people at the club, not just Rain. There's been a lot of dialogue with people at the club on this sale process and not just Rain, but it's still very segmented to just a couple of people. And there's been a lot of it, including in the last few days to a week. I have the perspective, my view on this, my personal opinion from the information that I can see, where I'm leading up to with this kind of somewhat vague statement, is as far as I can see, I feel as though the decision has been made already to a large degree. Um, it's the Glazers, so it's always like, could they pull the rug out from one of the parties at the last second? Absolutely. But I do feel that personally, I think the decision has already been essentially made. Um, I think it's been made. And I think it's further along than it appears with whichever party it is that is winning. That's my personal opinion based on data available. I don't think that's what's going to be said in any reports, media, things like that, but that's what I believe from what I can see. And some of the kind of just sort of circumstances and things that have happened, I think that it is a bit further along with whichever party is mostly decided to be the winners at this point in time. So I do think that hopefully we will find out then very soon, and the transition will be quicker because of that. But we'll see. We'll see. That's my opinion based on available data. Um, I think really right now in terms of reports on the club sale, it's important at this point more than ever to ignore the, I've talked about the three camps of info, ignore any of the info coming from the sides and look for the news from people like Financial Times, Bloomberg, Mark Kleinman at Sky, the financial people who are going to be getting things from like the Rain and Glazers side on what happens next. We've heard nothing from them in weeks. And so I'm kind of waiting for that before I read into any reports that go on, but I think those are the ones to look out for. And practically everything else can be ignored because what buyers think at this point, I don't know if it matters. I don't know if it means anything. That's my opinion. So moving on to the budget, because I want to talk about this. And I retweeted something and put an eye roll on it because it is a bit annoying, and people will obviously give me a hard time about this. For months, I have said the takeover has barely any effect on the actual budget itself from an FFP perspective. FFP is a percentage of revenues. And, Mike Keegan for months has been saying Qatar ready to give Ten Hag a huge transfer kitty and all of that, right? And I've called out certain things as PR when they don't make sense. And then today his report says it's not the takeover that determines the budget. And it's like, well, you can't report all that other stuff and then say that. This has always been the case. I wouldn't say if Sir Jim took over that we'd be able to spend a ton of more money than now, or Sheikh Jassim. It's the same. The revenue is already there. The FFP percentage cap is already there. That is what the spending is based on. Now, is the budget a lot more than 120 million pounds? Yes, that is not where United are in trouble FFP wise. Their FFP limitation is significantly higher than that. So it's a little obnoxious. Here's the point. Neither buyer, the funds that they invest in the club, it's not for transfers. It is not about transfers. This is something I've tried to make a point very, very clear from the beginning. It is not about transfers. It's about investment in the club, why you want the buyers to come in. Paying off the debt is about investment in the club, not soaking $1 billion out that could have been used for stadium and upgrades. It's about investment in infrastructure and all of that. That's where the money that buyers can come in and bring can have the biggest effect, not transfers. United can spend an enormous amount of transfers and have. So the budget has always been this way. It's not really that much affected by the takeover, except that it gets rid of the Glazers and their holding of everything up in the way that they see the budget and the way they see money. So as far as I understand it, United can spend quite a bit more. We broke down the math months ago on this on FFP than 120 million. They can spend somewhere in the range of 200 to 250, and that's what they will do. Most likely, I mean, unless the Glazers hold up deals, right? But they can in terms of money. The budget itself is not exactly set. I know for a fact that the budget's being worked on. It's not exactly set. So anyway, it's just those are the types of things that are irritating because it's misleading out there when you get a lot of reports. Oh, this buyer's going to come in and bring in a bunch of money for transfers. Oh, this buyer's going to come in and they're not going to spend on transfers. It means nothing. The budget for transfers is based on percentages of revenue which are already well established. That's not where investment from the owners come in. They cannot pump money in for transfers at this stage of where things are at. Okay, so the budget is being worked on. It's not 120. It's more, or it should be. It can be more based on FFP. That's not where they hit the FFP limitation, and it's still being worked on. The takeover, the biggest benefit of it for transfers is that it would remove the Glazers and their stagnant and snail-paced decision-making from the process overall. In terms of transfer updates themselves, Mason Mount, as I've been saying, is closer than people think. You have a report from Matt Law, Chelsea Tier 1 source, saying that United believe that they can wait this out a bit, that Mason Mount is not going to accept a new contract under any terms, and Chelsea have to lower their price or let him go for free. And everybody pretty much believes that's going to happen, and it will. I believe it'll end up compromising around 55 million or so in pounds, and that is what United believe as well, and what I expect to happen. Harry Kane, a lot more pessimism there. Very interesting report from Gianluca Di Marzio, of course, a Tier 1 source for Italy, who says that United are very, very interested in Rasmus Hojlund, and that if they cannot get, like Victor Osimhen he names, then Rasmus Hojlund will likely be the one, that they've already had a lot of talks, things like that. It's all lining up. We've seen the pessimism being reported on Kane. I think they'll check on Osimhen, but obviously we're still very pessimistic on that due to price and things like that. It feels like Rasmus Hojlund is the answer. Hojlund and Mount still feel like the two most likely transfers by far and where things are moving. Now, very, very interestingly, there are way more reports for goalkeepers than there have been, if you have noticed in the recent weeks. David Raya is likely to go to Tottenham, but there's been talk about that. There's been talk about Jan Sommer and the interest being revitalized in him again. I'm reporting what I know on Diogo Costa, that they're still exploring it. It's June 14th. David De Gea's contract expires in 16 days. It's not signed. It's not done. Is there a chance that we move and get this keeper thing done too? I do think so. I really, really do. I know we're going to do something on the keeper front. It's still dependent how much or what, but there's been a lot more talk recently of keepers, and I know that something will happen on keepers in general. So that's the most part of what's going on. I'm trying to see if there's anything else meaningful at the moment. Let's see. Yeah, that is pretty much it. Oh, another little interesting thing was United extended the option on Ethan Laird today, and I think that is a good indication of the lack of signing for a right back that will be this summer. Have Wan-Bissaka, have Diogo Dalot on a new contract. Ethan Laird had his extended. They'll likely want to see how he performs and sign him up to a longer deal. I don't see where there's a space for a right back. There's no need to extend him unless we, are just seeing him as another option in the future to right back and seeing how he performs on loan and making a new decision as of next year. And so that's the expectation on that. Okay, so I do expect, hopefully, that we will hear things soon. I know there are people who have information on the takeover that are somewhat waiting as well. Timings have been impossible with this, obviously. No matter how good of your information is, there's been many decisive weeks, many times where it was supposed to be the next 7 days, the next 10 days, the next 5 days, and it didn't happen. So, hoping for no false dawns here. But like I said, my opinion is that a decision's already been made. I also, yeah. So let's leave it at that. And let's wait and see what more news comes out. I will be gone the next 2 days. I'll be around phone, and all of that. But I will be traveling a little bit. So I will not be making a video on Thursday or Friday. So naturally, I do expect some significant news to break on one of those days. But, we'll see what happens there. And thank you for watching this video. Make sure to like, comment, subscribe, turn notifications on. See you in the next one.